Let's welcome in Mayuresh Joshi to take us through the final lap, the last leg of the show today. Mayuresh, thanks for joining in. So what have you been doing and what have you been buying, if at all, in the mid caps and small caps? Clearly, the bargain hunters are now they've managed to find the courage to get back on the street. What is your approach in the market right now?
Afternoon, Surbi. Yes, it's been a difficult time over the last few weeks. But I think we've analyzed a few data points and we've just put our note out. We actually did comparisons on 3-4 broad parameters. The first being the bond yield and the earnings yield. It probably seems that the gap that has now got formed is very close to historical gaps. And as that comes down to that historical gap, a large part of the expectations of markets bottoming out seems to be a plausible case. The other element that we probably studied over the last 10 to 15 years, 15% of the Nifty 500 stocks are trading above their 200-day moving average. The last that we had seen was in 2008, 2014, the COVID crash in 2022. I think a similar scenario had played out where after a few weeks or few months, the markets actually bottomed out, and I think you saw a significant amount of enthusiasm coming back. The third obviously has been the dollar index, which obviously was capping out at 105, 106 odd levels. This time it's moved to 110. Now, if you look at the inverse relation, it probably tops out, which seems to be the case at this juncture because the dollar index has broken down on its 50 and 21 DMA. Seems to be a case that if this does happen the next few weeks or months, the market might actually bottom out. And last but not the least, I think in our own methodology, I think 22,725 becomes a very critical level. The low that we created in the recent past for the last few days. I think if that is defended, which seems to be the case, we've entered into a rally attempt. And if we do get a follow through day, which is when the Nifty makes a move of 1.5% in good volumes, maybe the bottom is well into the way. So I think the construct sounds a little bit optimistic and positive with all the battering that we received. But we have been cautious so far. But again, a few sectors are coming up. Agrochemicals as a space. A few hospital stocks are coming up as well. We're probably seeing some financials come up as well. We've added Coromandel, case in point, within the agro space into our model portfolios. Our take is that the rural season and the expectations of a good Rabi harvest, La Nina conditions brewing, expectation of a good Kharif output expected with good monsoons that are expected, and a good Rabi season to follow, might mean rural will come back in a very significant way. The best stocks in terms of placement at this juncture seems to be agrochemical place and Coromandel in terms of our rating and ranking seem to be well placed here. The other elements that you're probably seeing at this juncture within financial stocks like a Karur in the mid-cap space looks well placed. Earnings have been fine as we speak. Management commentary has been very, very optimistic. And therefore, I think as the advances growth happens reasonably, the capital adequacy remains extremely strong. Asset quality pressure is expected to come out even further in the next financial year. And the EPS rating and rankings, the RS rating and rankings seem to be on footing. A couple of stocks on our watch list, Surbi, as we speak. UBL, United Breweries, seem to be on our watch list. Last quarter, encouraging quarter in terms of volume growth. With what has happened in terms of the duty cuts on bourbon whiskies in the US, beer makers might actually stand to benefit in that opinion. With the summer season coming around, I think volume growth should substantially pick up. You've seen price hikes as well as state hikes are concerned. Input costs, ENA and molasses seem to be under control. And therefore, margin expansion probably seems to be a good case in point, reflecting better in terms of earnings growth as we speak. So I think a few sectors and stocks on it.
Stock up on beer and on the beer stock ahead of the summer season. That seems to be the thought process. Just very quickly, on the large caps, Mayuresh, you named a couple of picks on the mid cap side. In the large cap arena, anything specifically that you like, financials or even otherwise?
Sure. So, Surbi, I think Kotak Bank probably seems to be one stock that is probably making a base case scenario as far as our rating and rankings are concerned. Obviously, the numbers in the previous quarter have been decent enough. The expectations in terms of the addition that is going to happen to its personal loan portfolio, I think how does that accrue in the next few quarters is going to be very, very interesting. The management sounds very, very hopeful in terms of the stability in their NIM performance, expectations in terms of their cost to income ratios remaining stable. And what you've probably seen in terms of deterioration in terms of CASAs, generally for the industry as a whole, should show some signs of improvement as we head into the next few quarters. So I think among the large caps, I think Kotak is something that probably remains on our radar as far as rating and ranking are concerned.
Kotak Bank remains on the radar. Got that. Anything you mentioned one UBL earlier. Anything else in the broader space which you have a view on, Mayuresh, which is lots of stuff rebounding, but some of them are just after 30-40% falls. You got to put this into the recoveries in that context. But anything else you like?
So something like, Prashant, I think something like Avanti Feeds also remains on our watch list. I think 2-3 reasons. One, I think if you probably look at their business construct itself, shrimp feeds, the EBIT performance has improved, not just quarter on quarter, year on year as well. As far as processed shrimp is concerned, the expectation in terms of the export markets, and specifically the US context, the kind of tariffs that are levied on India compared to a Vietnam, a China, or even an Ecuador at this juncture, India stands relatively higher. So I think there are two perspectives here. If tariffs increase or they increase substantially for other countries as well, and they come at par, India was probably getting a little bit of a lesser share because of the competitive intensiveness of pricing as well as currency, which probably remains at par now. Ecuador shrimps have seen a huge amount of upheaval issues in the last few quarters. And therefore, I think there is some element of hope that even if this comes through, the hit in terms of margins might not happen. The second element in terms of their core strength in terms of input costs. So you could probably divide that in terms of fish meal, soya meal, and flour. Flour prices on the higher side. But generally, I think earnings rating rankings seem to be better placed for Avanti Feeds at this stage.
Yeah, Mayuresh, is that the broad view as well on markets? Some bounce here?
Seems to be the case. And again, I think a few parameters that I just mentioned in the earlier show that we are looking at in terms of the broad context on how the entire Nifty 500 is placed, how the dollar index is placed, how we are looking at the internals in terms of MarketSmith India in terms of the recent low of 22,725 made, the markets getting into a rally attempt, defending that low in the last 3-4 days. We are now waiting for a follow-through day, as I said. So if the Nifty makes a good move of 1.5%, as per our O'Neill methodology, I think that would indicate that at least for this cycle, the bottom might probably be in place. So yeah, I think remaining optimistic for that follow-through day to come.
Mayuresh, any thoughts on from a stock perspective what this would mean, in your opinion?
Well, I think it's still evolving, Prashant. So I think if this does come through, I think it does increase the competition intensity for Indian players, which were basically enjoying the entire domestic safeguards. And if that probably happens, how does this play out on volumes is something that is unknown at this juncture. Obviously, I think a lot more platforms are being expected to get introduced over the next few months and quarters as well, with a lot many features as well, power packed into a reasonable amount of a cost structure as far as the selling price is concerned. But I think this is an evolving news, and if this probably happens, at least at the high end level of cars, I think you will probably see competition going up, and therefore I think stocks like Maruti, which have got mix in terms of entry-level car, hybrid cars. They're introducing the EV cars as well, with a very strong sales and service network as well. Might actually be a little bit better off compared to the rest of the pack. But again, I think the overall construct, let's wait and watch on how these developments play out.
Mayuresh, thank you for joining us as well, and thank you for staying on the program. Thank you indeed.